The billionaire laughed and pointed at me. "Talk to my deaf son," he mocked, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. His friends roared with amusement, but when I finally spoke, the room went dead silent. What happened next didn't just humiliate him, it exposed the cruelty behind his fortune. This is my story, and I promise you won't believe how it ends. Every second matters, so stay with me. If you love stories where arrogance gets destroyed, you'll want to see this through. Kindly subscribe. Thank you. Let's get to the story. My name is Sandra Tremaine, and I'm 26 years old. I live alone in a cramped studio apartment in Pinewood District, the kind of place where the walls are paper thin and the rent is always 3 days away from breaking me. I have no family left. My mother, Vivian, passed 2 years ago. It's just me now, surviving paycheck to paycheck, shift to shift. Most nights, I come home too exhausted to cook, too broke to rest easy, and too invisible to matter to anyone. I work at the Ivory Terrace, an upscale restaurant where the city's elite come to be seen. You know the type: crystal chandeliers, polished marble floors, wine lists longer than my lease agreement. I've been there almost 2 years, and honestly, it's been the hardest 2 years of my life. The customers treat us like we're furniture. My coworkers, Jess and Lauren, gossip about me behind my back, calling me awkward, saying things like, "No wonder she's alone." My manager, Mr. Raymond Cross, takes advantage of me too, always giving me the worst shifts, the most difficult tables, because he knows I won't complain. I can't afford to complain. I need this job. 3 days before that night, I received an eviction notice slipped under my door. $1,800 due immediately, or I'd be out on the street. I checked my bank account that morning. $312. That's it. That's all I had in the world. I sat on my kitchen floor and cried for 20 minutes before pulling myself together. I had to go to work. I had to smile and serve people who wouldn't even look me in the eye. I had no choice. Friday evening arrived like it always does, the restaurant's busiest night. The kitchen was chaos, orders flying faster than we could keep up. I was already running on fumes from a double shift when Mr. Cross called all the waitstaff together. His face was pale, almost nervous. "Andrew Blackstone is dining with us tonight," he announced. The room went dead silent. Everyone knew that name. Andrew Blackstone, 45 years old, tech billionaire worth over $6 billion. CEO of Blackstone Industries, he owned half the city, including the building our restaurant sat in. He was also notorious for being absolutely ruthless to service workers. Stories about him were legendary: making servers cry, getting people fired over the smallest mistakes, leaving cruel tips just to humiliate them. Mr. Cross's eyes landed on me. "Sandra, you're taking table 7. My stomach dropped. The other waitresses looked relieved, even smirking. One of them whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "Good luck. He's going to eat you alive." My hand started trembling, but I nodded. What else could I do? I needed this job. I needed the money. I just had to get through one night, just survive one more night. When Andrew Blackstone arrived, the entire atmosphere of the restaurant changed. A sleek black sedan pulled up outside, and 2 massive security guards stepped out first, scanning the room like we were a threat. Then he emerged, tall, imposing, wearing a charcoal 3-piece suit that probably cost more than I'd earn in 6 months. His hair was slicked back perfectly, graying at the temples, and his eyes were cold, the kind of cold that comes from never hearing the word no. He walked into the Ivory Terrace like he owned it, which technically he did. People recognized him immediately. Whispers spread through the dining room like wildfire. He wasn't alone. 3 friends accompanied him, all wealthy, all loud, all laughing at jokes that probably weren't even funny. Andrew snapped his fingers at the hostess without even looking at her. My usual table. Now, They sat down at the best spot in the house, immediately ordering the most expensive wine on our menu. I took a deep breath, grabbed my notepad, and approached them. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to—" Andrew cut me off before I could finish. "Champagne. The 2012 Dom Perignon. You know what that is, or do I need to spell it?" His friends burst out laughing. I felt my face flush with embarrassment, but I swallowed it down. "Yes, sir. And for everyone else." They rattled off their orders. Dry-aged steaks, rare preparations, demanding modifications, barely even glancing at me. I wrote everything down, staying professional, staying invisible. About 10 minutes later, a young man walked into the restaurant alone. He looked completely different from the billionaire and his entourage. He was wearing casual clothes, a red hoodie and jeans, and he moved hesitantly, like he didn't want to be there. This was Ethan Blackstone, Andrew's 23-year-old son. I noticed immediately that he was wearing hearing aids in both ears. He spotted his father's table and took a deep breath before walking over slowly. What happened next made my heart sink. Ethan stood beside the table for a full minute while his father continued laughing and talking with his friends. Andrew didn't acknowledge him, didn't even look up. Finally, Ethan gently touched his father's shoulder. Andrew jerked around, clearly annoyed. "You're late. Sit down and don't embarrass me." That was it. No hello, no hug, nothing. Ethan sat down at the far end of the table, completely isolated from the group, staring down at his hands like he wished he could disappear. I walked back to the table with their champagne and began taking the rest of their orders. When I got to Ethan, I smiled warmly. "And for you, sir?" He didn't respond. He was looking at his phone, completely unaware I was speaking to him. I tried again, a bit louder. "Excuse me, what would you like to order?" Still nothing. I stepped closer and tried one more time. That's when Andrew noticed. He started laughing, loud and cruel. "Don't waste your breath, sweetheart. He can't hear you." His friends immediately joined in, laughing like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. "He's deaf," Andrew continued, raising his glass mockingly. "Hello? Anyone home?" He actually waved his hand in front of Ethan's face like he was checking if anyone was inside. The laughter grew louder. I looked at Ethan's face and saw it turn bright red with shame. My heart broke for him. I moved around so I was standing directly in front of Ethan, where he could see my face clearly. I spoke slowly and distinctly, making sure he could read my lips. "Hi, I'm Sandra. What would you like to eat?" Ethan looked surprised, like he wasn't used to people treating him with basic respect. He pointed to the menu and said quietly, "Grilled salmon, please." His voice was slightly different, the way some deaf people speak, but perfectly understandable. I smiled. "Great choice. Anything to drink?" Before Ethan could answer, Andrew interrupted. "He'll have water. And make it quick, we don't have all night." I nodded and turned to leave, but Ethan tried to get my attention. He waved his hand slightly and began making signs, asking me something in sign language. I didn't understand, I don't know sign language, but I could tell he was trying to communicate. I shook my head apologetically and gave him a kind smile, trying to show him I wished I could understand. That's when Andrew slammed his glass down on the table. The sound echoed through the restaurant. "Oh, this is rich," he said, turning to his friends. "Look at this." His friends stopped talking and looked over, grinning. Andrew stood up, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Are you seriously trying to talk to my deaf son with your hands?" I felt my face burning. "Sir, I was just trying to help." He cut me off. "Help? You? A minimum wage waitress." His friends started laughing again, louder this time. Andrew continued, and every word felt like a punch. What makes you think you can communicate with him? Do you have a degree in special education? Are you a speech therapist? I tried to respond. No, sir, but… He didn't let me finish. Exactly. You're nobody. He turned to his friends, performing for them now. Can you believe this? She thinks she's qualified. One of his friends chimed in. Maybe she learned it from TV. Another one added, or maybe she thinks she's a miracle worker. They were all laughing so hard, and I could feel dozens of eyes on me from other tables. My hands were shaking. I could see Mr. Cross in the corner, his face pale, shaking his head at me like he was begging me not to say anything. Andrew stepped closer, using his height to intimidate me. His voice was dripping with contempt. Let me make this very clear, sweetheart. You are a waitress. You bring food, that's it. You don't talk to my son. You don't look at my son. And you certainly don't try to communicate with him like you're something special. Then he said the words that changed everything. So shut your mouth, do your job, and talk to my deaf son like a normal person. Use your voice. Stop encouraging his disability. The entire restaurant went silent. Every conversation stopped. 60 people were watching us now. I looked at Ethan and saw tears forming in his eyes, his face red with humiliation. Andrew was smirking, thinking he'd won, thinking he'd put me in my place. His friends were grinning, waiting to see me cry and run away. But I looked at Ethan again, this young man, barely more than a kid, being treated like garbage by his own father, being mocked, being told he was broken, that he needed to be fixed, and something inside me snapped. No, my voice came out quieter than I expected, but in that silent restaurant, everyone heard it. Andrew's eyebrows shot up. What did you just say? I took a breath and said it louder. I said no. He laughed, but it sounded forced now. Excuse me? Do you know who you're talking to? I met his eyes directly. Yes, a bully. Gasps rippled through the nearby tables. Andrew's smile disappeared. Watch your mouth, he warned. I cut him off, and my voice grew stronger with every word. No, you watch your mouth. That young man is your son, not your employee, not your property, your son. And you just humiliated him in front of a room full of strangers. Andrew tried to speak, but I didn't let him. How dare you lecture me about my son? I raised my voice over his. Someone needs to, because clearly nobody else will. The words were pouring out of me now, everything I'd been holding back for years. You mock him for being deaf like it's a joke. You ignore him, isolate him, shame him. And when someone tries to show him basic kindness, you attack them. You mock them. Andrew's face was turning red now. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? I didn't back down. I can see exactly what's happening here. You're embarrassed. Not of him. By him. You're embarrassed that your son doesn't fit your perfect billionaire image. I turned away from Andrew and looked directly at Ethan. I spoke clearly so he could read my lips. You don't need to be fixed. There is nothing wrong with you. Being deaf isn't a weakness. It's just a different way of experiencing life. You call it weakness, but I call it courage. Maybe he should try it sometime. Ethan was staring at me now, tears streaming down his face, but something had changed in his eyes. He looked like someone had just told him he mattered for the first time in his life. I turned back to Andrew. The only person at this table who should be ashamed is you. The billionaire smirked one last time, but for the first time tonight his eyes flickered, not with confidence, but with something else. Fear. Andrew exploded. You're fired, he screamed, slamming both hands on the table. You hear me? Fired. You'll never work in this city again. I own half the restaurants here. I'll make sure I didn't flinch. You humiliate people to feel powerful, I said, my voice steady now. But power without compassion isn't strength, it's rot. And everyone here can smell it. The restaurant went deadly silent. Guests were murmuring now, some even holding up their phones, recording. Andrew's face was crimson with rage. His friends looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Then, a new voice cut through the tension. Stop, just stop, Dad. Everyone turned. Ethan was standing up. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice was clear. Andrew turned to his son, his expression a mix of shock and fury. Sit down, Ethan. But Ethan didn't sit. No, he said, his voice shaking but growing stronger. I'm done sitting down. I'm done being quiet while you treat me like I'm broken. Andrew's face went pale. Don't be ridiculous. Ethan's voice rose, cutting him off. I'm deaf, Dad. Not stupid. Not broken. Deaf. And you know what? I'm proud of it. He looked directly at his father, tears streaming down his face. You never listened to me, but she did. He turned to me, and through his tears, there was something like gratitude shining in his eyes. Thank you, he said softly. Thank you for being braver than I was. Then Ethan walked toward the exit. The entire restaurant erupted in applause. People stood up, cheering. An older woman at a nearby table shouted, Good for you, young man! Andrew stood frozen, his mouth open, his empire of arrogance crumbling around him in real time. I found out later that someone had filmed the entire thing. A young woman, herself deaf, had recorded everything on her phone and posted it online with the caption, Waitress destroys billionaire for mocking his deaf son. Within 30 minutes, it had 50,000 views. Within 2 hours, over 1 million. By the next morning, it had 15 million views and was trending #1 worldwide. News outlets picked it up immediately. Tech tycoons' cruelty exposed. Billionaire's shocking treatment of deaf son caught on camera. The comments were overwhelming. This broke my heart and then put it back together. That young man deserves so much better. Everyone needs a Sandra in their life. The video spread through the deaf community like wildfire, shared and reshared thousands of times. Andrew Blackstone woke up the next morning to complete disaster. His phone had over 200 missed calls. His PR team told him it was catastrophic. His board of directors demanded an emergency meeting. By noon, Blackstone Industries stock had dropped 18% and was still falling. Major clients canceled contracts. Investors pulled out millions. Protesters gathered outside his company headquarters, holding signs that read, Listen to Ethan, and respect isn't optional. The deaf community organized boycotts of all his businesses. His reputation, built over decades, was destroyed in one night. Meanwhile, I woke up to thousands of messages flooding my phone. Job offers from over 30 restaurants, each offering better pay and conditions than I'd ever had. Messages of support from complete strangers. Thank you notes from members of the deaf community saying I'd given them hope. Someone had even started a fundraiser. She stood up for us when it cost her everything. It raised over $180,000 in 2 days. My phone rang. It was Mr. Cross. Sandra, he said, his voice nervous and apologetic. I wanted to apologize. I should never have. It's okay, Mr. Cross, I interrupted gently, but I won't be coming back. There was a pause. I understand, he said quietly. I'd already accepted a new job at Cafe Morningside, a cozy neighborhood cafe where the owner told me, We need people like you here, people with heart. A week later, I was wiping down tables at Cafe Morningside when the doorbell jingled. I looked up. A young man in a red hoodie stepped inside, moving slowly, hesitantly. But this time, there was something different about him. He was smiling. Ethan. My heart lifted. He walked over to the counter, and without a word, he lifted his hands and signed, "Thank you." I smiled, feeling tears prick the corners of my eyes. "You don't owe me thanks," I said softly, making sure he could see my lips clearly. "You just needed someone to listen." He nodded, his smile widening. Then he pointed to the menu and signed again, this time with a playful glint in his eyes. I laughed, one coffee coming right up. As I poured his drink, Ethan pulled out his phone and typed something, then turned the screen toward me. I moved out. I'm living on my own now. I'm taking ASL classes. I'm finally accepting myself. Thank you for showing me I'm enough. I handed him his coffee, my chest tight with emotion. "You are enough," I said. "You always were." We stood there for a moment, two people who'd been overlooked by the world, sharing a quiet, genuine smile. That night at the Ivory Terrace, I didn't just stand up for a stranger. I stood up for every quiet soul who's ever been talked over, every person who's been told they're not enough, every voice that's been silenced by arrogance and cruelty. Andrew Blackstone lost everything that mattered, his reputation, his company, and most importantly, his son. But Ethan gained something far more valuable. His voice, his pride, his freedom. Standing up cost me my job that night, but staying silent would have cost me my soul. Money, power, status. None of it matters if you lose your humanity. Sometimes the smallest voice can bring down the biggest giant. Sometimes all it takes is one person refusing to stay quiet. One person choosing kindness over fear. One person saying enough is enough. Power shouts, but courage? Courage listens. Sunlight streamed through the windows of Café Morningside as I wiped down the counter, the warmth settling over me like a blanket. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. The door jingled softly as customers came and went, each one greeted with a smile. I glanced at the corner booth where Ethan sat, his red hoodie bright against the morning light, typing something on his laptop. He looked up, caught my eye, and waved. I waved back. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. If this story touched you even a little, don't leave just yet. Kindly hit that subscribe button and join our community, where real stories, real lessons, and real emotions come alive every single week. Please help us grow by hitting the subscribe button. Thank you.